It's been nearly 2 weeks since I last posted a video. I would say I'm sorry about that, but I'm fully aware that nobody cares.
You got that right.
Basically, we got so sick of this that we went for a week of this. Although I got so burnt one day, despite the fact I was sitting in the shade all day, that I then basically had to put up with a few days of this.
Do you like being able to hear the tunes from the pool in our room?
Yeah.
Do you mainly like it because you get to watch me dance?
No.
Hello!
We've gone past 5,000 subscribers since I've been away, which is amazing. Didn't even have 1,000 at the start of the year, and I've been absolutely blown away recently by the amount of amazing and supportive comments I've been getting. So thank you very much, everyone who's watched the video, liked the video, commented, subscribed, all that stuff. I really do appreciate the support. And if you haven't subscribed already, then please do. I'm gonna try and do some kind of big giveaway soon to mark the 5,000 subscriber landmark thing. I don't know what that's going to be yet, but make sure you're subscribed and you will not miss out. Anyway, to keep the channel growing at such an amazing rate, I thought today I'd make a video that pretty much everyone's going to hate.
This man is a genius.
So today I want to talk about golf lessons, and more specifically the way that we pay for golf lessons and whether that should be switched to a kind of model that could actually work better for the players, as in us, and also the coaches themselves. This video is going to be a bit different to normal. Normally when I make a video, I've come up with some kind of theory that I think makes sense, and it usually doesn't, and then I'll do my best to explain it. Normally with a variety of terrible accents and bad acting, mate. But what I want to talk about today is such a complex topic that I don't for a second think that I've got all the answers. So I just want to start a debate, really. So while you're watching, or at the end, please put your thoughts in the comments down below, and I'll be reading and replying to all of them. And also, if you see anyone else's comment that you think is interesting and you want to reply to, then please do feel free to obviously reply to that and have a bit of a conversation, not just with me, but with other people. It's going to be really awkward now when nobody comments. It's just me down there saying, oh, good point, Rob. Yeah, thanks, Rob. Great point. Well, I'm not sure I agree with that, Rob. Anyway, if you look at the title of today's video, you're probably thinking, well, of course golf lessons shouldn't be free. Why would any pro or anybody in any industry give up their time free of charge? Particularly when they've spent years getting those qualifications, and obviously they've got bills to pay just like the rest of us. And that is a very valid point. But I'm not actually saying that golf lessons should be completely free. What I'm talking about and asking really is there maybe a better way for us to pay for golf lessons? The reason that people have golf lessons is to get better at golf. So what if instead of paying for golf lessons, we paid for getting better at golf? So for every, let's say, half a shot, or for every 0.1 that your pro helps you get off your handicap, you pay a certain fee for that. The amount would obviously have to depend on your handicap to start with, because it would be a lot harder and probably take a lot longer for a pro to help someone get from, say, a 1 handicap to 0 than it would for them to get someone who's off 28 to 27. So the price should obviously reflect that. It would also depend a bit on how much the pro thinks you can improve and how quickly, and also how much time you're willing to spend practicing. Because obviously golf lessons aren't some kind of miracle cure. You don't just have a few lessons and then suddenly your handicap drops by 10 shots. You have to practice what you're being taught in the lessons in between lessons for you to have any hope of it working and making you better. So I was having a bit of a conversation about this whole thing on Twitter the other day. By the way, if you are on Twitter and you don't follow me and you would like to, then go and have a look. I'll put my thing somewhere. Anyway, Andy Carter, who you probably know from YouTube, he's a golf coach. He said, you can't put a teaching pro's livelihood in the hands of someone who doesn't practice or practice correctly. I teach a high number of lessons per week, and a big aspect of the lesson is making a player understand their swing and how to practice. Once they leave, I can only trust them. And I totally understand where he is coming from. Obviously, your improvement does depend massively on you. There's no coach who can just make you a better golfer in the course of a half-hour lesson without you doing anything on your own afterwards. All they can do really is teach you what you need to work on, show you the best way to go and practice it, and then obviously check up on you every week, every fortnight, every month, whatever it is, to make sure that you are doing the right things and progressing. So I guess in my kind of alternative system, you would agree with the coach at the outset how much practice you are willing and able to do, and you would be obliged to stick to that. Or obviously, if something changes and you can't stick to it, you'd have to change your goals and how much you expect your handicap to drop based on that. Obviously, it'd be totally unfair on the pro if you agreed that you were going to practice 3 times a week, then you never practiced and you went back to him after a month and said, well, I haven't got any better, so I'm not going to pay you any money.
Where's my money? You gonna give me my money?
And obviously there are some golfers who have got no interest in practicing or just simply haven't got the time to practice. Now, a lot of those guys probably don't have lessons, but if people do have lessons but have got no intention of practicing, then the coach will obviously at the start have to talk to them about their objectives and set realistic goals based on the fact they're not going to be practicing in between lessons. Now, I know a lot of people are going to say that paying based on how much you improve is not fair on the pro. You know, if they give you good coaching during your lessons and then you don't improve, that's your fault. But is it? Because if you've done everything to the letter that they told you to do and you don't improve, aren't they at least partly responsible for that? By the way, this video is not me saying that there's loads of golf coaches out there who are giving lessons that aren't helping people get better. If you've watched many of my videos, you'll know that I'm actually a big advocate of getting golf lessons. I believe that 9 times out of 10, they'll probably help you a lot more than going and spending that amount of money on golf equipment. I've only had positive experiences with golf pros in the past, so this isn't me saying that none of them are any good. So I guess what I'm talking about is more of a kind of joint partnership where the onus and the burden of your improvement sits equally on you and the coach rather than it kind of all being on you. And I'm not actually only looking at this from the viewpoint of the amateur golfer, the kind of person who's going and paying and having golf lessons. I think it could actually make good coaches better off. I did a Twitter poll and 58% of people said they'd be more likely to have golf lessons if it worked in this kind of way. And out of the 42%, I would imagine that some of those will be people who are never going to have golf lessons, even if they're free and you get a free lollipop at the end of each one. And some of them are probably people who don't have a handicap. So obviously this whole system of paying based on how much your handicap comes down wouldn't work for them anyway. Obviously there's some coaches who are fully booked and are charging hundreds of pounds per lessons, and I'm sure they are not too bothered about changing the system. There's some really good coaches who are getting results with the students they've got, but they maybe haven't got enough students to keep them busy and earn as much as they'd like. I think that this kind of system would encourage more people to say, well, actually, yeah, I'm going to give it a go and have some golf lessons. Another thing that people said on Twitter was that there's more to getting your handicap down than just the golf lessons that you have with a coach. And I get what you mean by that. Obviously, it doesn't matter how much better your swing gets through lessons. If your mental approach or your course management is absolutely shocking, then you're not going to be able to put the scores together in competition to get your handicap down. But there's nothing to stop your coach helping you with other parts of the game, which are actually what's costing you. And obviously it'll be in his or her interest to do whatever it is that actually is going to get your handicap down. So rather than the focus being on a golf lesson where at the end of it you seem to be swinging it better and hitting it better, the actual focus will be on you shooting better scores. So it will require both of you to be thinking probably a bit more about exactly what it is that is stopping you getting your handicap down, which is now what both of you really, really need. I guess if they don't feel that they can help you get your handicap down, then there's no benefit to either of you for you still having those lessons. So like I said, I'm not saying that I've come up with this genius new perfect system. I know there are flaws to this system, but I also realise that there are flaws with the current system and the way that people pay for lessons. And there's a lot of people who are having lessons and not getting better. And like I said before, I'm not saying that's because of bad coaching, but there's something going on that means that for whatever reason, the coaching that's going on isn't helping that student get their handicap down. And that's where the frustration comes in. People are more likely to get annoyed and start to think, well, I'm putting in all this time and money, not getting any better. I'm going to jack this in and go and take up curling. And I know there are some pros who would be interested in doing something like this. So I actually worked with a pro before for over a year on this kind of basis. And I'll be completely honest, in the end, it didn't work perfectly largely because at the outset we didn't agree the exact fees of how much it would be for every, say, half shot my handicap came down. So then when my handicap did start coming down and I started saying to him, right, you know, I need to give you some money, by this point we'd also become quite good friends, and he was then reluctant to take money from me. Obviously I didn't know exactly how much to give him. I found a way to give him what I felt was the fair amount, but it was all a lot messier than it could have been if we got it all completely laid out and agreed from the outset. Also, a couple of coaches on Twitter replied to me. So a guy called Sevi Giardina, I hope I've said his name right, I probably haven't. Maybe I should have tried an Italian accent. He might not even be Italian, what am I going on about? Anyway, he said, as a coach, I would be prepared to get paid on results as long as the pupil also kept their side of the bargain and practiced what I asked for the number of hours I asked. And a guy called David Holman, who you may have seen I had a lesson with last summer, which is really good, he said, I would say a perfect situation is you pay a base rate, but you set handicap targets that require a financial reward to the coach. But also a written agreement of practice hours is done before you start. Practice hours are so much more important than lessons. And that could be a kind of happy medium really, because obviously with the whole you only pay when your handicap comes down, you've got the issue that pros don't make any money at the outset. They might be given loads and loads of lessons and they've got to wait until those players practice, get better, then go and play in competitions, play well enough, get the handicap down. I can totally see why that is going to be a problem. But obviously with this, people would pay a flat rate for lessons, but if the coach is able to actually help them get better, there's an incentive there for the coach. And when you think about it, that's kind of how it works on the tour. So most of the tour coaches maybe get paid a retainer fee, but most of their earnings are based on getting a percentage of the money that their players win when they perform well in tournaments. Anyway, like I said at the start, this is not a video where I claim to have worked out some piece of genius. I definitely haven't got all the answers. I know this is a hugely complicated topic and there's flaws in all the different systems. I'm just saying that I, as someone who is looking to settle down with a coach, would be very interested if there was a coach who I could trust, who said, look, I'm 100% confident if you're willing to put in this many hours and do exactly what I tell you and practice the amount and the type of things that I tell you, then you will get to scratch and you will pay me based on that improvement, rather than just saying, okay, well, it's 100 quid an hour, I'll give you some good lessons, see how you go. So there you have it. I'd love to hear what you think. Please put your comments in the comments section. That's the best place for comments, I guess, down below. Like I said, I'll be reading all of them and replying to all of them. So yeah, let me know whether you've had lessons, whether you think this would work, whether you've got no interest in having lessons at all, whether you're a pro and you'd be inclined to give this a chance or it just wouldn't work for you. Whatever it is, pop it down below and I'll see you in the future.